Bit late into the current cycle, but I'm back for another silly challenge. Now, normally agents can reach level 60, which makes polychrome rewards feel almost too easy to unlock. So instead, we're turning up the ante with these restrictions, where I'll only use agents capped at level 50, which includes their W engines and the team's Bangboo. This means their core skills are maxed out at rank D, and their active skills are frozen at a base level 9. To make sure I don't just use my wallet to brute force the run, I'm only allowed to run a maximum of just one limited signature W engine for the entire team, and absolutely zero Mindscape cinemas for any of my limited agents. To be completely blunt about this boss, while it completely lacks the annoying, time-wasting, and vulnerability phases that makes older encounters a chore, it is also slightly lacking in the fun department. The only cool part is the new double defense parry mechanic. Strategy-wise, the fight is incredibly straightforward. The boss triggers a corruptive barrier early in the encounter. When that happens, the main priority is to cleanly parry every incoming strike with a defensive assist. Nail the double parry at the end of the sequence to inflict massive daze, and then layer on anomalies to shatter the shield and refund the team's energy. Once that first barrier breaks and the first stun is secured, Girtablullu basically turns into a glorified sandbag with no complex mechanics left to watch out for. It's pretty obvious that the boss was engineered from the ground up just to sell the Velina banner, which works out perfectly here because pairing Velina's wind application with Grace's or any other anomaly agent completely trivializes this fight. Here's a quick look at the disk drives and character stats used for this clear. Now, looking at the hefty damage penalty from an underleveled squad, the viewer might be wondering how it was possible to pull this off. Well, to be honest, I cheated because throughout this encounter the monitor was turned on. And down it goes. A few retries were required to memorize the parry rhythm, but Velina completely carried the rest of the execution. Don't get too comfortable though, the second encounter brings a lot more mechanical pain. Moving right along, the second encounter brings back a very familiar face. Viewers who watched the previous episode will already know the drill. This run uses the exact team composition as before, anchored by my personal favorite, Yixuan. On paper, this squad scores a 4 out of 6 on the scale because Dailin and Lucia are limited, and Yixuan is running her signature W engine. To keep the high stakes handicap alive, Yixuan is still at a measly level 35. However, unlike last time, this run was easier. Why? Because the game finally decided to grant a favorable buff. Last season required fighting tooth and nail with a horrific buff tailored exclusively to sell S-rank Billy. This season, the cycle introduces the shatter buff, which isn't completely tied to the physical element. The core strategy here hasn't changed. In the opening leg, the goal is still to push the daze meter and stun the Thrall before he can summon Sobek. Afterwards, it's just a matter of having the resources necessary whenever the boss gets stunned. It turns a fight that used to be a complete nail-biter into a highly satisfying victory lap. Once again, here's a quick look at the disk drives and character stats used for this clear. Two down, one to go. Having an actual season buff that synergizes with the roster completely transformed a nightmare encounter into a joke. But don't celebrate just yet, the grand finale against the Notorious Marionette is up next. For the final encounter, this team sits at a nearly costless 1 out of 6 because it runs 2 A-rank agents alongside Jifufu, with absolutely zero premium W engines in sight. To be completely transparent, this encounter took the longest to clear out of the entire video. Ours were spent attempting a completely free, pure A-rank setup with Pulchra in place of Jifufu. But under the brutal level 50 restriction, or just me getting skill checked, the damage penalty finally caught up to me, repeatedly coming up short by just a hair of the S-rank threshold. Tell me in the comments if you want to see the run. The Marionette is actually much closer to what I want a Deadly Assault boss should be. The performance points are beautifully tied to the core combat loop. Points are rewarded for destroying the clones, which conveniently applies a massive elemental debuff to the main boss. The only massive headache is the time-wasting and vulnerability phases, which trigger like clockwork around the 20-second mark of every minute. The strategy here is to turn that annoying phase into something predictable. The goal is to aggressively hunt down at least 5 clones early on to stack the debuffs and then force a stun right before the boss hits the first invulnerable state. The moment she recovers from that stun, she immediately teleports to the center of the ring to start the time-wasting minigame. Getting caught out on the edge of the arena when this happens makes clearing the new clones in time a nightmare. To counter this, I use my agent's EX special attack to rocket across the stage, close the distance instantly, and ensure no targets are missed. It's a tight and frantic dance, but watching a free patch reward character absolutely command the battlefield makes the hours of retries completely worth it. The exact stats and disk drives for this final squad are sliding onto the side of the screen right now. I'll leave you the rest of the gameplay for now so you can see the rest of the encounter without any distractions.
This won't hurt much. I'll eat everything. I'll show you. Scorching sun. Extreme.
And there it is, another full deadly assault cycle completely cleared with a whopping damage penalty. The team survived the Scorpion, leveraged a beautiful seasonal buff for Yishren, and clutched out the final phase with a brand new free agent. Normally, I show alternative team comps from other players to provide baseline blueprints for independent runs. However, due to a heavy workload and a recent vacation, there hasn't been any time to check up on my friends' setups. The production of this video was a pure sprint just to get the footage live before the timer resets. If you enjoyed the run, consider hitting the like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. The moment the boss cycle resets, the channel will be right back here to push the limits all over again. Until then, I'll see you on the next excursion.